I don't think I can describe how viscerally bizarre it is to get a paper in the mail that is just blatant proof of human rights abuses and that your government is kinda sorta doing eugenics, and feel relief. So I decided I'm going to talk about the trans process in Finland. Because you hear all of these stories out of English-speaking countries about trans people and how they're treated there and what transitioning is like, but you so very rarely hear about it from anywhere else unless you speak the language or languages of that country. So here I am, a Swedish-speaking Finn who speaks fluent English, to tell you about my experience transitioning in Finland, and a bit about how that even started. So let's just go back to the beginning. Some 7 or 8 odd years ago, I was 14 years old, and I'd just gotten a Tumblr account. I know we're off to a very cliche start, but that's how it happened for me. And I guess it's a cliche for a reason. I was going through the customary rituals of settling into Tumblr at age 14 in 2013. Lots of unnecessary comments on posts and fake deep captions on mediocre photos, basically. But while I was going through all of this, I also started to get exposed to a whole new world of people and identities. Now, I've never been confused about different sexualities existing. My eldest cousin is a lesbian and has been out for as long as I can remember. I've known from a very young age that heterosexuality is not the default. Where there was a gap in my knowledge was with gender. See, how that happened was that in my preschool class, there were these twins, let's call them Luke and Leia, because why not, right? I'm drawing Star Wars anyway, might as well commit. Now, these twins were both girls, but Luke had a very masculine nickname and was very much a tomboy. So one day, tiny 6-year-old me comes home and tells the story of how Luke got angry today because people keep thinking she's a boy, and she and Leia gathered all the kids to explain that Luke just looks like a boy and she isn't one. So my mom thinks, oh, Luke's a trans girl. And I don't actually remember any conversation we would have had about it, but my mom now assumes that I've been introduced to the concept of trans people. She is incorrect. This is unfortunate. Because some years later, I'm like, I don't know, 12, 11 maybe? Something like that, and I come across an article about a pregnant trans man. Keep in mind, this would have been in 2010 or 2011, so let that inform your baseline about what kind of tone this article set. It wasn't very flattering, is all I'm gonna say. I will probably remember for the rest of my life the violence with which my brain rejected him. I closed the tab, closed the window. I think I even left my computer for a moment and just tried to forget I'd ever seen anything. I actually did forget for a while. Then I got a Tumblr. And I started hearing from trans people themselves, not from others talking about them. Not from articles marveling at their existence, not from dehumanizing look at the pregnant man pieces. So I get onto Tumblr, and I hear for the first time properly from people who care that cis is not the default. And almost immediately something shifts, but it doesn't click, not just yet. I just know that something's off with the gender I was assigned at birth. So I start by trying they/them pronouns. I think I might be agender, and it's fine, I'm fine. I get pushback from transphobic teachers, my parents defend me, I'm fine, it's fine. But something's still nagging at me. And at some point it does click. I realize I'm a guy, and here I make the biggest mistake of my life. I try to force myself out of the closet. I know, it sounds like it should be impossible. How can you force yourself out of the closet? Real easily, apparently. It happens when you've previously been, not exactly forced, but very strongly prodded towards coming out, when you weren't ready yet, with the implication behind the prodding being, they're your family, you can trust them. And this happened at a real young age, and the prodding was by an authority figure you like and trust. But you also haven't actually fully dealt with your own internalized bullshit yet, so you end up with this feeling that you're simultaneously acknowledging and want to run from at top speed, combined with the nagging guilt of, you know they'll accept you, you should tell them, otherwise you don't trust them. And it just makes for a whole lot of not fun times. I'm not gonna talk about what actually happened in that period after I'd effectively forced myself to come out before I was ready, because it's honestly really painful to look back on even now. But if I can say anything, let it be this. It doesn't matter how sure you are that your friends and family will accept you. Accept yourself before you come out. Taking your time to deal with your own internalized BS does not mean you don't trust them. And if you get to a point where you do accept yourself and you still don't want to come out yet, you don't have to. You don't owe your identity to anyone. Fast forwarding past that entire chunk of my life, I finally do actually come out for real. New name, new pronouns, and all. It goes well, just as I'd always known it would. People take some time adjusting, but that's fine. For real this time. I get referred by my then therapist to the one place in Helsinki that deals with trans people. One of the total 2 places in Finland that does so. I'm lucky. I get matched with a guy who's been around for a while. He's cool with me painting my nails, he's cool with me wearing more feminine shirts, he's cool in general. I could trust him to be in my corner totally and completely. Whenever he asked the expected "are you sure" or "what about this and this" questions, he'd always end it with making sure I knew he wasn't doubting my words. I move onwards into talking to a psychologist. I've had 2 of them throughout this process, and both were cool. But nothing ever goes as planned, and the process comes to a screeching halt over one summer in, 2017? And I end up waiting several months longer than I should have to actually get my diagnosis. Eventually, though, I am officially diagnosed with transsexualism. I'm allowed to apply for a legal name change and to start testosterone. And I start what is called a levnadsår. Basically, it's a year where you're on T and you check in occasionally at the clinic to tell them that yes, you're still sure. Now, all of this played out over a long time. It is a lot of waiting being trans in Finland. And I should say being a binary, or at least binary enough trans person in Finland. Because if you're anything other than a man or a woman, you can just forget about it. There's nothing for you in the system here, which absolutely sucks, but anyway. At this point, I've completed that year a while ago, honestly. I'm 21 years old, going to be 22 in April, but I'm still waiting because guess what? I needed to be referred to that second clinic I mentioned. Yeah, they need to look over my case and say, yeah, we agree with this assessment, and only then can I get my legal gender changed. I have been referred now, and I am just waiting on them to get back to me. And then I still have hurdles to jump through with surgeries, starting with that I'm autistic, so they need to be extra specially careful that I'm not just confused. And I'm so fucking tired. I mean, I also need to lose weight, or they just won't refer me on for any kind of surgery, which I genuinely thought, like, oh my god, I cannot believe I ever fell for this, that was just how it was. Like, I didn't think it was impossible to do top surgery on a fat person, I just thought no one would do it, so I just had to accept it. Let me tell you, the first time I saw a photo of a fat, recently post-op trans man, felt like a punch directly to the gut. I mean, I'm happy for you, dude, but I fucking hate my country right now. But yeah, that's all future stuff. I've been in this process for 5 years, and I'm still not out of it. It's long, and it's hard, and I recently got the papers in the mail declaring that, at time of treatment, I am sterile. Because, oh yeah, did I mention that's another thing the government requires of me before they'll allow me to change my legal gender? I don't think I can describe how viscerally bizarre it is to get a paper in the mail that is just blatant proof of human rights abuses and that your government is kinda sorta doing eugenics, and feel relief. It is so incredibly deeply fucked up, but what can I do? I've gotta play with the cards I've been dealt. So yeah, that's what it's like to be trans in Finland. A lot of waiting sprinkled in with some blatant disregard for your human rights and a decent scoop of ableism if you're unlucky. Also, if you live further north, good fucking luck getting any treatment at all because all the clinics are further south. I mean, one of them is in Helsinki. That's one of the most south places you can get in Finland. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider liking it and maybe subscribing. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye.